Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Before I do the pledge of the flag, I believe we want to add or amend something onto the agenda. Is that right, Dr. Jordan? On 9C?
That is right. I almost said Mayor Kang, Councilmember Kang. We want to add to the agenda an item. We'll put it on as 9C, and it's going to be a request of the council to ratify a emergency declaration that was made and signed today by the Emergency Services Director, which is one of my capacities related to the fire that just took place. And looking forward prospectively in doing this, it'll assist us in getting any emergency assistance from the state and federal government if that becomes available. So I will soon come up to the dais and pass out the staff report, and the resolution we'll be asking you to look at as item 9C added to the agenda.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jordan. I kind of skipped it really quick. Let me go back to number 2, the pledge of the flag. I would like to ask Mr. Hernandez if you can be so kind to come and lead us to the pledge of the flag. Really? Oh, you can't? Are you Canadian? Wait, Joanna G, can you come on over, please? Or someone. Are you being for real? Okay, anyways, I'll do it. Or Joanna, you want to do it?
Okay, put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, librarian. Okay, so let's go back to number 3 really quick, the adoptions of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
Motion, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we need a roll call on this? I don't recall.
Before we do that, because we do need to bring up that agenda item that we
Yes.
just discussed. And
Yes.
so the city council does have to make 2 determinations with a 2/3 vote of the city council present. Therefore, we need 3 out of 4 votes. And you need to make the determination that there is an immediate need to take the action, therefore to consider this item. And 2, that this need arose after the posting of the agenda.
Okay,
And so we can add that now, or we can add it 9C afterwards. Would you like
let's
to take
just
it
do
on?
it now.
Okay.
Yeah, let's get it over with.
All right.
Okay.
So this is just a vote to add it to the agenda, to determine that there is an emergency need to add to the agenda, not to vote on the actual resolution itself.
Okay, so should we have a roll call?
So before we do that, we do, I think, need to make a statement that there was first an immediate need to take action due to the fire. So maybe we need Mr. Villalobos to give us a little bit of background.
Thank you. Council, it's a pleasure to be here. As you know, we did have a fire that occurred Sunday. It was named the Fish Fire, burned approximately 55.2 acres. It started almost exactly in the same spot as our fire that started in 2016, which was also called the Fish Fire, but then renamed to the San Gabriel Complex Fire. The concern on this case is not that there was a lot of expense related to the fire from the city side, but that there's potential for debris flow in the subsequent years and year as we start to hit back into hopefully a rainy season again. Given that there's a potential for K-rails and a huge expense for the city, we have to deem that there was a local emergency. And so our city manager, acting in the capacity of Director of Emergency Services, proclaimed the emergency. And by our municipal code, we have 7 days, or I shouldn't say we, city council has 7 days in which to ratify that proclamation. So before you is the resolution that does that. And like I said, the fiscal impact, as you get to the staff report, right now is unknown. And there's none right now, but the potential for a large impact later if we have to do anything to mitigate debris flow is there. And
Mhm.
so that's why the staff is bringing forth this item to council, and this resolution ratifies the proclamation that was made earlier today by our city manager acting in the capacity of Director of Emergency Services. Are there any questions?
Yes, sir. Mr. Lewis?
How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing well. Councilmember Lewis.
As far as the fire, I was listening to the news today, and I don't think they were updated because they said the fire was still active. Were they incorrect? Or?
There are still some hot spots. We do have crew still out monitoring the hot spots, but they are not. It is 100% contained
Okay,
as per LA County Fire.
that's all I need to know, sir. Thank
You're
you.
Any other questions from my colleagues? Okay, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
And so with that, I would recommend that the city council take a vote and move to, one, determine that there is an immediate need to take action regarding the fish fire, and that two, this need arose after the posting of the agenda, and the agenda was posted on Tuesday. The fire began on Sunday.
So do we need to do 2 roll calls?
Just one.
Just
Oh,
one?
Excuse me. Yes, we posted on Thursday, but the fire, apologies. So we posted on Thursday, but the fire began on Sunday. You just need to make one motion
Okay,
to make those determinations.
okay. So do we have a motion?
Motion.
Very good. And we have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and do a roll call. Dr. Jordan?
Sure, okay. Councilmember Trong,
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis,
Aye.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
and Councilmember Kang.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So just in case you guys haven't noticed yet, I am not Mayor Finley. So Mayor Finley and Mayor Pro Tem Paras Karachi and also Councilwoman Jody Schultz, just for the record, they're absent today. They would love to be here, but they have some personal reasons there that they are not able to come and attend. I'm sure that they are definitely thinking about us, and it's just please just forgive them. You know, they have to do their own things right now. All right, so we did that. We did the adoption of the agenda already, right? Let's go ahead and move on to number 4, special items, Parks and Recreations Department update.
Councilmember Kang?
Yes,
That was the vote to add the emergency item to the agenda, so we still need a vote on that.
that's right. So let's go ahead and do a vote with the adoptions of the agenda after the amendment.
So moved. Second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and move on to number 4, special items, Parks and Recreations Department update. Manuel.
Yes, good evening. Just a couple of brief announcements. Our summer recreation classes are now live at accessduarte.com. So we encourage the public to log on to the website, click on City News, the City News icon at the bottom of the web page to view our most up-to-date classes, and also the very lengthy and robust special events that we'll be offering this season that we are excited to bring forward. Speaking of classes, I'm happy to announce, even though there is a lifeguard nationwide shortage here in Duarte, our pool is staying continuously open and serving our residents and even our neighbors. And this summer, we're happy to be able to be in a position to still provide 5 sessions of swim lessons. So that's 8 sessions within a 2-week time period. So that'll take us all the way through the middle of August. And because we know of such a high demand, and we're seeing a lot of pools within the county and some of our neighboring cities not open for the summer. We recognize that obviously that drives additional traffic to our website and to our facility. So this year, like we did initiate last year, we've continued along with the tradition of making sure that our residents have first right to register for any of our swim lessons, whether it's Parent and Me all the way up to advanced lesson level 5. So I'm happy to announce that, and we're having 2 different timeframes. It's in the mornings and the evenings to accommodate our working families and those families that are maybe at home and looking for some things to do during the day. Next, I'll just share briefly that we have our Duarte Party in Duarte summer kickoff, and that's going to be held next week here in the Civic Center parking lot. That'll start at 4 p.m. We'll have DJ vendors, food trucks, and we'll kick off a concert series with the Smokin' Cobras at 5 o'clock. And at that same time, folks have access to our competition pool for rec swim. And then at about 7:15, we'll clear out the pool, and then we'll start our dive-in movie, which will be featuring Encanto that evening. So it's going to be a lot of fun. First official day of summer. So mark your calendars, and hopefully we'll see you out here. And then lastly, we have our Little Independence Day celebration that will be happening on Sunday, July 3rd. And that'll take place over here at the Duarte Sports Park. We have great entertainment lined up, DJ, some new fun interactive games to kind of get the crowd out earlier, a bunch of different food trucks, vendor booths, and then we'll light up the Duarte sky with a 20-minute fireworks show synchronized to music at 9 p.m. So again, it's a free event. We encourage all of our residents to come out and bring a neighbor. Questions?
That's so exciting. Yes, sir.
Really quick, I was looking on our social media and we're promoting a Dodger game in July.
That's correct.
I went on the website and I couldn't find how to sign up for it.
Okay. We, as city staff, will make sure that that's a little bit more transparent on our website. I'm not sure if there's been a direct link added to that. It's under our classes. So it's
Okay.
as a class. So you have to log in, have the account. And then if you don't have an account, you do have to create one. But as soon as you type in Dodger in the search field, it should pop right up and you should be able to register.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
for
you.
sure. Go Dodgers.
Are they playing the Giants?
They are that night, and it will certainly be a different outcome this past weekend.
I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that, man. Well,
Vin, you have a question?
Oh, no.
I got a question. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Do we know, or can we, how many people are we expecting this time? Since last year. it
For
was such
July
a great-
3rd?
Yeah, it was a really good turnout.
It was a really good turnout. I'm hoping that we see, more than the 3,500 that we saw in years past. So, I mean, we're planning for that kind of number with plenty of portable restrooms, food options, entertainment, and I mean, we have a big enough space. So hopefully we will safely pack that sports park so that we can all come together again and enjoy that fireworks show.
Great. Thank you so much. And
For sure.
thank you so much for your hard work and the staff members, making sure that this is going to be a exciting night for City of Duarte and all the constituents around this San
Absolutely.
Gabriel Valley.
Absolutely.
One thing I want to go ahead and tell you really quick, this is actually coming from Councilwoman Schultz. She wants to go ahead and tell you that you did such a great job with the Beersley Park because I believe there is no summer school program down.
No
and-
summer
and-
after school program.
No summer after
Yeah.
school program. So kudos to you that you just whipped it out and made a program for them. It's actually no charge to the students too. So yeah, that's fantastic. We really appreciate that.
For sure. Happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you for
so
making
much.
us look good by doing that, sir.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to 4B, Community Development Department updates.
Cool. Some things that have been going on recently and will be going on. One is, some of you might have been aware of this. I don't know exactly who made it out there, but over the weekend, we had a tree planting that went on, and this was urban greening for a clean water grant that the city received from Coastal Conservancy. And Gerard, our field services the manager, did a really good job with that. About 50 trees got planted. It was out at Encanto Park. Rebuilding Together was involved in that also. We had about 30 or so people that showed up for that. And I happen to know, because there's video, our city manager was doing some manual labor, basically. So, and there we have proof to that.
Wow.
So it looked like he was really working hard too. But that was really, Dred did a great job, and we got good community participation. It's really, always good to get trees planted in the
Was he
community.
dressed up as a Gumby?
I don't know. Annual brush clearance. I talked about this at last month, and that is almost complete. So we're in compliance with all county regulations, and the areas in town that might be a little, or certainly more fire safe than they were before. You may have noticed it right across the street, the Andis Duarte statue. We get that cleaned annually, and that just recently occurred. It always looks great when it's done. So not only does it make it look a little bit fresher, but it also extends the life of that bronze statue. So it's good that we were able to get that completed. And recently, the Duarte Animal Hospital just gained an approval for an expansion. That's the corner of Las Lomas and Huntington Drive. They're going to be enclosing their kennel area so they can expand their service and doing a facelift to their building. So that's something you'll see happening over the next few months. And for today, that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Great. Anything from my colleagues? Thank you so much, Craig. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to number 5, announcements of upcoming community events. Of course, we have Joanna G.
Good evening, City Council, Joanna G. from Duarte Library. Summer Discovery Program is going on June 1st to August 14th. Sign up online, read 5 books for kids, and get a prize at our library. We also have Smart Pants Story Time every Fridays at 11 a.m. Registration is required. This Friday, we have a special program called Opera Tales Puccini with LA Opera. That is also by registration, and it's at 2 p.m. Refreshments will be served courtesy of the Friends of the Duarte Library. We have a teen program coming up on Wednesday, June 29th at 3:30 called Scratch Art. We also have a special program coming up, Landscaping for Wildlife Resilience virtual program, and that's on Zoom on June 29th at 6 p.m. We also have a free booklet that goes along with it. We also have California State Park Pass that's available for 2 weeks checkout period. Sign up is on our website, and these are good for over 200 California state parks. Any questions? That's it for me.
Yes, Mr. Lewis.
Joanna, that state parks, does that include Yosemite?
No, it does not, because Yosemite is a national park.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, interesting. Hi, Victoria.
Hello, we're gonna go a little out of order because I know Shoshana's here and has, I'm gonna let her come and she's back. Go ahead.
Okay,
Shoshana.
Shoshana,
I didn't see you. You're up.
you're up, Shoshana.
I know you have gifts. I have swag.
You have swag. Do you have food? Fruits? Fruits? I'm looking for food. Fish? Where?
This was actually for Mayor
Really?
Finley, but it may not survive.
Oh, you shouldn't have.
I know, I didn't, not for you.
For you, I bought Africa.
Mayor Finley's not here, so they
It's
gotta
not
go home
for
with
you.
somebody.
It's all up for grabs. I have a few things. As you all know, we're having, or do you know, we're having our installation dinner next week, June 25th.
Yes.
I know that Victoria sent you all digital invitations, but I thought you should have a proper invite. So I did bring one
Aw.
for all. And I'll leave these with Victoria, or I can hand them out with your swag. I brought Spain and Africa as well. I'm not sure if y'all know that we are organizing 2 pretty amazing trips. One is a spectacular trip to South Africa, amazing South Africa, Los Angeles to Cape Town, and to Bonnie Safari Conservatory, Johannesburg, back to LA. Details are on our website and.
And can you disclose this for our audience? How much are we talking about?
Oh, sure. So the price per person is $3,200,
That includes,
everything.
isn't awesome?
Yes. And then for those that book the trip, we will arrange if you get dropped off at the chamber parking lot, or we could probably get dropped off here. We'll arrange VIP transportation to and from LAX.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
It's amazing.
Right, because nobody likes to deal with LAX, so we'll handle
No.
that part of it. That's easy. And then the other one, and that one is in November of this year. The next one we're doing is to Spain, marvelous Spain, Los Angeles, Madrid, Cordova, Sevilla, Granada, Valencia, Barcelona, back to Los Angeles. Again, this is a 10-day trip. And this one is, you have two options, $27.99 standard or $29.99 superior, also includes airfare. These are all available on our website. So just a little added, we call it Lanya, where I grow up. Then we are accepting 2 interns next week. I'm super excited about it, working with the K-12 consortium. So we have a young woman and a young man joining us, one specifically to work with us in the office and one to learn about how to run a farmer's market. So that leads right up to, don't know if y'all have heard, but we launched this farmer's market. I have some swag, not that one.
Bear. Wow. Oh, dang. What are we getting? I can't wait.
Everybody gets a little swag today.
I got it.
So Duarte Farmers
Share it.
Market, sorry for the interruption. Every Wednesday from 4 to 7:30. We've curated a really nice group of farmers and a good group of packaged and prepared food vendors. Last week, we added a pasta vendor. And we have our own lemon drop cookie shop that's doing extremely well. You may or may not know that we offered them 3 months of free access to our farmers market, which was a huge reason that we got some of the farmers from Santa Monica and from South Pasadena. So remember that farmers markets are, they're not as pretty as the stuff you get at the grocery store, but they're much, much better. Sorry, no broccoli today, but I did bring you a swag bag. Yes, I'm learning about broccoli from Craig. So, that is really the end of my presentation, and I'll just finish distributing our bags. And that's all for us.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Have you gotten any feedback from the farmers?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the farmers loved week 1. We did extremely well. In some cases, we did better than they did they do in South Pasadena. The prepared and packaged foods vendors did extremely well. We were down by 20% on the farmer side on week 2. We're down about 10% on the prepared food side. However, we had graduation week. So we were competing with, families going to various graduations.
Yeah, I think graduation is a little bit important, although
Little bit.
farmers markets is kind of important too.
Yes,
We'll have a better
they're
one.
pleased. There's always going to be the folks who, want a different spot, and it's a prickly bunch,
Yeah.
but we love them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be out there tomorrow.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yes, tomorrow. Hope to see everyone there. Any other questions?
Very
Nope.
good.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
my pleasure.
So I just have one brief announcement, which is the drive-through dog vaccination and licensing clinic is happening this Saturday, June 18th. In cooperation with Vet Care, the Duarte Public Safety Office has scheduled the annual low-cost vaccination clinic going from 8 to 10 a.m. The clinic will be held at Encanto Park. It's a drive-through, so you're gonna go through the Encanto Parkway. All attendees are required to stay in their vehicles. Rabies vaccinations will be available for $12, microchip registration for $35, and other vaccinations will be available upon request. In addition, participants can purchase Dory dog licenses, which need to be renewed each year. Only check or credit, no cash. And remember that all dogs over the age of 4 months must be vaccinated for rabies to comply with state law. Don't hesitate, vaccinate. And you can find more information on the city website. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Craig, who has the most fun news of the night. You do.
Oh, okay. I'm getting excited.
Well, it's not a letdown, I can guarantee.
Okay.
Announcement of another new employee in the Community Development Department. I'm going to ask Scott Nash to come up here for a second, just real quick. Scott Nash is in our Public Works Department. He is our new Community Development Technician.
Okay.
And this is kind of a minor reorganization we did when Teresa Renteria left the city. Scott was our intern before. He did a really great job, interviewed for the position, and we've hired him. So he started this week. One more piece of information I want to tell you about Scott, which I think is an interesting piece of information, is his mother worked for the city of Duarte back in the 80s, before maybe some of you were born, but certainly before he was born. But Scott is a Cal Poly student and just recently graduated, and we're really glad to have him on our staff. And Scott, if you'd like to say something, feel free to do so.
I'm afraid I didn't plan too much of a speech, but yeah, I'm it's an honor to be able to work for Duarte. I'm really excited for the new position and the new opportunities it's giving me. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott.
Welcome, Scott.
Welcome. Yeah,
Welcome to the family, Scott.
very good. Okay, let's keep on rolling. So do we have anyone else wants to go ahead and speak on number 5? Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. If seeing none, let's go ahead and move on to number 6. Oral communications, items not on the agenda. Any person wishing to speak on any issues that is not on the agenda may, but that is within the subject matter jurisdictions of the city or authorities may do so at this time. You have 3 minutes, Mr. Hernandez.
I had not planned on talking, but I got to meet Scott last week, I think it was. And anyhow, there's a couple that I know at the senior center that was having issues, and I took them to City Hall to, get some clarity on it and, help them get through it. And Scott was the one that helped us, and he did an incredible job. And I can only say that I just see a lot of great things coming out of him. And now I know why, because his mom. Another thing I want to address, and I probably should do it so that it kind of gets rid of that un-American thing, but I served in the Army. I mean, I basically did my part in doing my time and my duty. And as far as the country's concerned, I'm very, loyal to defending the Constitution and everything else that goes with it. When it comes to pledges, to me, they're like prayers, and there are just things that I don't feel comfortable with. And the last sentence of the Pledge of Allegiance, which pretty much says one nation under God, indivisible, and liberty for all, is not true in this country. It hasn't been for a very long time. And I just can't say that. I can't say that I agree with that because it's not true. It doesn't change how I feel. It doesn't change what I will do. It just changes what I won't say. And that's about it. So if that offends anyone, you're welcome to your offense, but I have to stick to what I believe.
Steve, you're highly respected. I thought, if I recall correctly, I thought you did it before. That's why I asked you.
I have never done it.
Oh, okay. All right. Maybe that was another Steve
Yeah, it was
Hernandez.
Brian.
That was Brian. Okay, all right. Anyone else wishing to speak on item number 6, oral communications? Once, twice sold. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to number 7, consent calendar. Do we have a motion or anyone want to go ahead and pull anything? I'm sorry? you have an input on, so there is an input on G and I, so let's go, I'm gonna go ahead and pull G and also I. Do we have a motion to move the rest?
Move. Second.
Thank you very much. So with that said, do we have all in favor, say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move all the consent calendars, except G and I. So let's go to number 8 really quick. Items removed from the consent calendar. Let's start with G. Go back. Okay, authorization of the city manager to execute a professional services agreement with Nature for All in the amount not to exceed $50,000 for project management, non-constructions for the Fish Canyon Trail restorations access plan grant, planning grant. Who's going to go ahead and give a brief status report really quick?
The Director of Parks and Recreation, Manuel Enriquez, is approaching the microphone.
Thank you, Manuel.
For sure. This is actually, as you're aware, we recently, as early as towards the tail end of last calendar year, we were awarded the RMC's Prop 68 funding to start the planning analysis for the rehabilitation of the Fish Canyon Trail. In doing that, being that we are such a small but mighty city, we traditionally have contracted out with grant writers or a firm to help and help city staff and essentially myself in executing the grant and so forth. Well, Nature for All has always been kind of a good partner for us, and they've worked with us previously on the Fish Canyon Trail. So in good faith, they partnered with me without, any upfront cost or cost to the city in hopes that we would get the grant. And so the way in which we wrote the grant and accounted for in the money that we've requested from RMC is a line item that's built out to incorporate their oversight of the project and helping me get us, helping me to essentially get the city in a place where we can have some construction plans that allow us to get a project shovel ready and funded to potentially then open up the trail. So this is more of a formality as we've already received the funding. So this is grant funds that basically we have a quarterly dates or expense reporting dates that we have to abide by the funding entity. And so in there, we just bill for RMC's time. So again, that's already accounted for within our grant and it's no additional cost to the city.
Great, thank you. And we have a speaker from District 9, Nino Paras. You want to go ahead and come up and speak for 3 minutes?
Lino Paros, District 9, and I hope you have actually seen the movie District 9. There is.
I have.
Okay, good. Thank you. And for tonight, men rules. I apologize to the women, but in many times the city council, it's the women. But whatever is the reason, men rules for tonight. Enjoy, guys.
It's your prerogative. You can say.
Enjoy, guys. Okay. Anyway, with regards to this, I just want to try to understand whether we have the grant already to maintain that, more or less. We have, okay, because in the past, as some of you probably is aware of, that's maintained by the city through the troubled youth program, something like that. And they were doing that as their, I guess, their community service to get out of trouble in the past, okay? And I had tried, I got a lot of history, okay? And I've traveled that halfway only twice. It's a very steep trail and quite a few snakes along the way. So if we get, so brother, yep, snake. But once you get top point, you will see a nice view of Duarte and the rest of San Gabriel, as opposed to the easy-go-lucky riverside trail to the Fish Canyon. I never made it the entire one because it's 5 miles one way compared to about 2 miles on the easy way.
Did you see the waterfall? Just curious.
What's that?
Did you see the waterfall? Did you
Oh,
see the water?
yeah, using the other one. Yes, I've done that several times. As a matter of fact, a few days ago, I was just thinking what's happening with the Fish Canyon Trail, I was just thinking about that, I guess I have an ESP because you got it here. So anyway, just make sure that those people be careful about those snakes. They're rattlesnake, okay? Especially, well, towards the end, there's a resting point there of a tree that you can sit down. But intro, right now it's a mess. Right now it's a mess right now. So that's probably what you guys are gonna do. So that's just a background on that because of just want to understand that the city got a grant. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to speak on item 7G? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion for 7G?
So moved.
Second.
Very good. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and move on to 7I really quick. 7I is the approval of the job descriptions and salary schedule for deputy city clerk and amendment of the citywide salary schedule. Who would like to? Dr. Jordan?
Sure, I'll briefly, before we get to the comment on it. This is a position that was discussed at the budget workshop and brought before the council as an addition to the city manager's office. And there are several reasons why we believe it's an important position for the city. I will address some of those, but I'd actually like to hear from the whoever wants to make a comment on it to see what their concerns are, so I can address those as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jordan. And we do have another speaker, and this speaker is the same speaker as 7G. So it's District 9, Lino Paras. You want to come on up and voice your opinion? Thank you.
Lino Paras, District 9 again. Okay. As a historical background with regards to the city manager's office, way back in the 80s, there is the city manager, a city clerk, actually a secretary acting also as a city clerk. And at the time, there was not a deputy manager. That deputy manager, I think, is during Mr. George's time. And they only have inter or part-time person in that office. And guess that you don't have advanced software for typing, blah, 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 filing, etc. And it was done by a skeleton force. Well, I call it a skeleton compared to what's being proposed. And there is also one person there during those times. That's basically a gopher. Anyway, I was at the budget meeting when this thing was presented, and if I remember the comment by the assistant city manager at the time was that it was maybe it's not the exact word, exploratory to be considered, blah, 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 and so on. Now it's on the agenda. We'll look into the job description and the qualification. Okay. I'm opposed to it at this point on 2 grounds. One, you don't have a good quorum. I mean, you have a quorum, but you don't have it. The second thing is that, see, the problem with city government, when you give them taxes, they'll find a way to spend it. And I don't think at this time, if for many years, the city manager's office were able to function efficiently. And basically, the city clerk, Marla Akana, was always present, okay? And she is also acting as secretary of the city manager there. So at this time, I'm opposed to this, okay, being even considered on those grounds. You have high-tech now with sophisticated file storage in the system. Even though there are 7 council members, all they have to do is duplicate the number of copies, you know, that's basically it. And the qualification given there is that for the amount that's being considered, I think we need a bachelor in that with law enforcement or background, something like that. I'm opposed to it, table it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Hernandez.
What he has to say may make sense, but it really isn't that way at all. The 7 of you all require some attention for things that you need done, and you need attention for things that you want to plan out. And that's one of the reasons they brought in this extra person. When we went from 5 to 7, it just would have been overwhelming for one individual. I think that one thing I've always liked about Duarte is that it's always been very pro, community, and it's also been very pro staff. We take care of our people. We make sure that and that's why so many of them stay as long as they do, is because they're happy here. And when you have happy employees, you have loyal employees. And that's really one thing that sets us apart from a lot of the San Gabriel Valley. And with that, totally disagree with what he had to say. And I'd rather that we supported our staff. And, we're not talking a lot of money. We're just talking a lot of frustration that one person might have trying to do it all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak on 7G? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Lewis?
I just wanted to comment on the last, I'm going to support this. I'm going to support this because myself, I call the city manager's office a lot. And when Jeremy was here, I used him a lot. I called him for everything. And when Victoria was by herself, I called her a lot. And I know I got on their nerves. I was tired of them talking. I know they were tired of talking to me because I was tired of talking to them. And so now we lost another member, Joyce. And, I called her a lot. I called her so much that, I used to tell her, I called her a lot. And now for them to take her away, and like someone mentioned, like Mr. Hernandez mentioned, it's 7 of us. And if I called them a lot, I'm sure some of my colleagues called them. I'm sure, they need help in there. And it doesn't make sense yes, Marla did an awesome job. I love Marla. I called Marla for everything and she was on it and she was, but Marla ran around doing 2 jobs and, because that's her work ethic. Everybody's work ethic is not the same. And not only that, in 1980, gas was only 79 cents a gallon. And so you go today is almost $6. So things got to change. And I totally support this petition.
Wait, you were born already in the 80s?
Sir, yes, sir.
Well, thank you very much. For the record, I just want to make a correction. I think I just said earlier 7G, but we're actually on 7I. So I do apologize. We're on 7I right now. Anyone else would like to go ahead and make a comment in regards to the jobs descriptions and salary schedule for deputy city clerk? Caesar?
Really quick, I think I'm ready to vote for it today, but one thing that Mr. Parrs did mention is the circumstances we're in today. I don't know how the rest of my colleagues are gonna vote, but I think just for transparency reasons, it'd be nice to wait to have the rest of our colleagues up here.
Okay,
I think I feel comfortable voting today, and I think I know what my colleagues will vote too, but I agree, it's always easier to blame the men if we do something wrong, so I would actually like till next,
Whoa.
I mean, I'm just telling the truth here, I'm married, so I would like to just wait to the rest of our colleagues get back, but to go on Mr. Parr's point, we really need to focus on progressing. And I think that this is a way to progress because we have a city manager that's now very involved in what goes on in the city, as well as his department. So prior to this, I don't think that the city, they were much involved as he is now. So as much help as he can get, I completely would, agree to it. But I do understand why. I hope everybody understands why we would want to wait for the rest of the colleagues to, vote for this today. So it would be a good thing. I'm good either way, but I agree with this. I will vote for yes for this. But I mean, I'll leave it up to you. What you think, Sam?
okay, thank you very much. And I just want to add a few more comments in regard to this. And the whole reason why we're doing this is about continuity, right? As you guys probably, the public probably doesn't know this, is Annette, Miss Juarez, I'm sorry. She actually had some medical difficulties right now because she was in an accident.
Councilmember Kang,
HIPAA.
not just that, but in general, that is an individual personnel issue.
Okay,
so-
sorry. Gosh, I thought it was public. My bad. Okay. And anyways, so the person is not able to be at the job right now, and the city needs the continuous continuity with the city clerk. So that's why without having a city clerk, we're missing a lot of the operational tasks, and in addition to making us functional as a city, it's good to have that continuity in a way that the tacit knowledge can be provided to a deputy in case if there is emergency. So I think I would strongly support having a deputy city clerk, just to making sure that the city can operate in a way that it's going to be smooth sailing per se, right? So anyways, why don't we wait? I think we're all, yeah.
Okay. Hey,
Yes.
Councilmember Kang, if I may, because there've been a lot of very, very good points made by you, by the audience. I think it's a very good questions. There are several reasons, and many of them have been talked about why we want this position. One of them that you just talked about is redundancy, right? We have city clerks are a position that can really only be done by people in that office. It's very specialized, and whether it's now or in the future, having somebody who can step in and assume the position when we have no one else who can do it. I will tell you right now to look around while we have some shortfalls in staffing in the office right now, to get a interim city clerk They know it's a seller's market, so they're talking about charging us $120 an hour, which is not only more than this person would make, it's more than our city clerk makes, it's more than I make. And we may have to do it because we have an election coming up and we have nobody to fill in for this and no one with the skills to fill in for this. The other part of this is we want this to be a city clerk to be position. We've never in the city had any kind of progress or succession planning as to come up through the organization and be its next city clerk. As a result of that, we lost 2 very good employees who had worked at the city for one of our hallmarks is we treat our employees well. We want them to be at the city a long time. We lost them because when our former excellent city clerk left, we had nobody qualified within the city to fill her shoes because we had nobody in that position to do it. This would afford us that opportunity and would afford our employees the opportunity to progress in their careers. Finally, I think the view of the city clerk's office as it was maybe 40 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago even, is different now that you have a new city manager. I view that position as much larger and as a much more focal point of the entire organization, frankly, how it is in many other cities. I even have a name at which I've tasked our current city clerk to do a project. I call it the City Clerk Office Modernization Program. It is true that there is so much technology that's out there for clerks and for others to be more efficient in their jobs. It is also true that we have very little of that right now in our city clerk's office. And to make those investments, the time and effort that it takes to make those right is a complicated job, and it takes a lot of time and attention of the main city clerk. And if the main city clerk is spending 98% of their time on the day-to-day just trying to get all of you your agendas and answer your questions, that kind of work never gets done. And that's where we are right now. And even the public, they don't realize it, but they're suffering from that. When we get a public records request, when somebody asks for a contract, they're scrambled all around the city, all around the organization. In other places, once you get the software in the city clerk's office beefed up the way it should be, that's a centralized function. And you even have a point where citizens can do it themselves and the city gets out of the transaction. So, excuse me. For all those reasons and for all the other ones that you mentioned here, I'm obviously in favor of it. I would ask you to consider doing it this evening because we really need to get this in place. There's a little thing coming up in November called an election, which not only, and that clock is ticking and we need help to get it done. And I don't know exactly when we're going to be back at full strength here. So I would just, whatever you decide to do this evening, I would please ask you to consider that and to do it as soon as you can. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Jordan. And after listening to your comments, I think I'm able or I'm willing to make a motion today. So I want to make a motion to move forward with 7I to approve of the job descriptions and salary schedule for deputy city clerk and amendment of the citywide salary schedule.
Second.
Very good. Let's go ahead and do we need a roll call?
You can
No.
just do a voice vote, but
Okay, let's say all in favor, say aye.
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 Very good. Thank you. Motion passes.
They can always blame it on the guys, fan.
No, you blame it on the rain. Blame it on the rain. Okay, all right, just kidding. All right, let's go ahead and move on to number 9, business items. A, fiscal year 2022-2023 budget and capital improvement program. Staff report. Yes, and we have Kristen Peterson.
Thank you, City Council. Tonight I have before you the proposed 22-23 budget. And so I'm going to move through some slides. As you know, we had our workshop, and so the goal of this is really to kind of summarize what has changed since then, as well as what our overall condition is if adopted. Overall, all funds, general fund and every special fund, the total budget expenditures and appropriations this year would be $31.9 million. It's a large budget. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of capital projects, and we'll talk a little bit about that. The general fund of that is about $23 million, and the special fund expenses is $8.6 million. That's how it's broken out. For general fund revenues, we'll talk about first. Overall, general fund revenue is projected to be $2 million less than 21-22. And while construction-related revenues are less than recent years, we continue to be higher than historical averages. ARPA revenue, which we discussed at the ARPA workshop and the budget workshop, we're going to have $2.5 million that will be received in 22-23. And as you know, we have decided to utilize that for our public safety expenses. So it'll be used towards the sheriff's contract. We also have another 2.5 that just currently came into the current year, and we'll be doing the same thing. Sales tax revenue continues to perform well, but we aren't seeing exponential growth. We're just seeing some steady, stabilizing growth. Transient occupancy tax doubled this year by projection from the New Hope Village Hotel. And it's actually a pretty conservative projection that we're doing right now. So it's very optimistic. I'm optimistic that this new revenue source is going to become more important in the future.
Can I ask a question really quick?
Sure.
I'm just curious, how much are we charging for the TOD with the City of Hope?
Are you talking about
The percentage?
Yeah, well, it's 10%, which is what everybody else pays.
Uh-huh.
How it's calculated is off of a room rate that was established in an agreement with them way back
Right.
during the development agreement.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. So this is where I'm going to point out some of the things that were discussed at the budget workshop and how I incorporated those into the proposed budget that's in front of you. First of all, we did increase the Chamber of Commerce funding with a one-time $70,000 amount for the startup of the farmers market. Consultant for broadband assessment, we talked about utilizing special funds for that assessment, but the idea that there might be some other funding out there or partnerships that might, be able to be utilized for that assessment. So as a result, that one we reduced from an $100,000 allocation for consulting down to 50. And again, these are estimates. Just remember, we're just trying to make a guess as to what we're going to need to utilize to kick these things off, but we did reduce that in the budget. We also allocated $14,000 for the Foothill Unity Center. And that was not just based on the discussions at the budget workshop, but also the presentation that council had afterwards at a council meeting from the center. And then we are proposing in this new budget, and if you read the details in the staff report, staff came up with the idea to do a full-time new position to increase the response to homeless issues. And that position would actually be a code enforcement homeless officer. Now, let me point out, we're calling it that. It's not going to actually be the official title. But the interesting thing about our code enforcement animal control officer is that they spend their time on code enforcement, they spend their time on animal control. While they're spending time on code enforcement, they're enforcing codes. And part of that enforcement of codes often involves supporting our outreach coordinator in both cleanups as well as citing property owners. What we're talking about is adding an officer whose focus would really be that aspect of which some of our code enforcement officers spending a portion of their time, but it will be dedicated to that and expanded. And as described in the staff report, there would be a very concerted effort for those codes, both the property owners as well as people who are homeless, who are violating those codes, to be receiving citations. And we talked about that at the budget workshop, that there are certain people who can do citations and certain people who can't. We looked at going to another sheriff's deputy. First of all, much more costly. And secondly, we can write the same types of citations through this code enforcement power. So the recommendation is to add this position. It would be $92,000. It's at the existing salary structure of what we have. And so we will be taking a job description for union feedback as part of making some changes in our existing job description that recognize really what our officers are sometimes doing now. You know, homeless was not necessarily an issue back when we were updating or as serious and precedent of an issue. So updating that job description will become very important, and it'll give us the opportunity to be very clear when we're advertising for the position. General fund expenses. I talked a lot about how much is going on, and a portion of that is because some of our projects have been delayed. We have about $1.1 million that is in our current 21-22 budget that will be carrying forward and completed in 22-23. Those include town center sidewalk lighting, city hall ADA counters, civic center fascia and paint project, the city hall courtyard, south yard storage trailer. So those were all items that we had discussed with council in 21-22, and because of other projects, supplies, staffing, whatever it is, it all is now moving over into the next fiscal year. So it's really a carry forward of appropriation also. New capital projects, a lot of projects, $1 million, and this is just in the general fund. We'll talk about special fund. Civic Center generator needs to be replaced. Fitness Center roof, Beardsley Park restrooms, and the Highland Promenade are all large projects that we're anticipating about $1 million going towards those projects in 22-23. And then special projects. This is where we have taken our ARPA funds, we're utilizing them for our general public safety services, and it has freed up these assigned fund balance amount of about $5 million that the council will have the opportunity to assign to projects. We're only allocating about $638,000 in this budget, and you'll notice that a lot of it is for assessments of what we think could be big projects in the future that will come back to council for consideration of this funding, as well as general funding, other special funds, whatever council decides. But the great thing is that this will kick it off and start giving us an idea of what we need in order to make these projects happen. The South Yard and the South Yard fence and gate project actually already came to council, and we talked about utilizing these special funds. And so that is a part of this assigned fund balance expenditure. And then doing an assessment, a revitalization assessment of the southeast commercial corner at Buena Vista and Huntington Drive, and a similar one for the southeast corner of Buena Vista and Duarte Road. And then as well as a citywide broadband assessment. That was the one that I brought up earlier. We have set aside $50,000 to try to do an assessment, hopefully in partnership with other communities that are looking for the same type of thing, just to really figure out what we need and what the market is that's out there for us. And then a Route 66 art piece, which was described at the budget workshop. The proposed location, which will be coming back to council for you to look at, is a Route 66. And it would be at the corner of Mount Olive and Huntington Drive, northeast corner. And so again, that will come back to council. This is just allocating what type of funds we'd like to propose. And then when it comes back to council, we'll actually allocate those. General fund, this is the summary that gives you a flavor for where we're at after it's all said and done. Our general fund projected revenues in this budget, $24,540,400. General fund projected expenditures are at $23,281,800. That gives us a surplus of $1,258,600. When you add that to our general fund balance that we have, this is the breakout that you end up with. You can see that there are several categories that are restricted when it comes to our general fund balance. There is non-spendable, which is really land, that's the value of the land being held for resale, restricted for development projects, restricted for a storm drain project, restricted for pension costs, committed to vehicle replacement, and then assigned special projects. That's our newest category. We've assigned those funds that I was talking about, the $5 million less the 638. At the end of the year, you would end up with $4,450,000 still to allocate towards future projects. And then our unassigned portion is the portion that does not have any restrictions or assignments. And that is at 17,828,400, which represents 77% of your expenditures in the general fund for this year. Very quickly, special funds. Again, a lot of projects going on. Earlier, you heard Manuel talking about grants and that we have grant funds that are covering things. There's a lot of grants out there right now that we are in the process of starting to actually use, build, and implement. Some of those are delayed. And so some of those delayed projects, the CDBG funds that will go towards the Civic Center courtyard, my understanding is that's out to bid right now. I think we might get that back at the end of next month. Is that what I heard? So we'll find out what's going on in the market and with the changes that we made. And so hopefully we'll come back with something positive, but we have allocated funds in here based on our best guess engineer estimates. Measure A funds will be going towards Duarte Park Playground. And then Measure W, we have an ARS CPS unit project, and that's in coordination with LA County, which it was kind of delayed because of the partnership with LA County. So these are projects that were in your 21-22, and now they're moving forward into your 22-23.
Can you remind me what's
Yes.
ARS CPS?
Yes, I believe they're a type of a filter. Craig, I'm sorry. The ARS CPS, it's a type of a filter.
It's the movable on catch basin, it's movable portion that keeps the debris from going down into the inlets.
Okay.
Sort of like a filter.
Like a filter.
I'm just teasing.
One word, filter.
I know. So, but that project actually, an interesting part of that project is we did complete one of those in our city, but it was the one that we controlled ourselves. We didn't have to partner with LA County on. So the one that still is being carried forward is the one that we will be working on with LA County. Now, new capital projects in our special funds, we have this great ATP grant, which should be kicking off this year. That's the Evergreen and the Freeway Underpass Pedestrian and Bike Project. Very exciting project. And this is not going to be an overnight project. This is actually the first phase. And right now we have it spread over about 2.5 years of finishing off and paying for all of these projects, or that project. Measure W, there's a project proposed called Tule Pond. Again, it's a partnership project. It's a regional project with other cities in our area that we currently put in as for this budget. And then Prop 68, we're gonna do an upgrade to the new Beardsley restrooms we'll be putting in at Beardsley. And Measure M, the Highland Promenade. And so there's multiple resources going into the Highland Promenade. You heard it mentioned in the general fund, and then this is just another one. So what are the next steps? Really, the next steps with this is to recommend that the City Council and the Housing Authority Board adopt the 22-23 annual budget and the capital improvement plan. And I will point out the capital improvement plan, which was also an attachment to your staff report. It really, the first column when you read it for 22-23 is the capital projects that are in this budget. So it's a chance to look at the capital projects separately. They are incorporated into this budget in the various funds that are resources to pay for them. And if you have any questions or need any clarifications, I'm happy to do that.
Any questions from my colleagues? I'm just curious if I can amend some or addend something. Is, you know, I was talking about the freeway underpass, Evergreen and Mountain, just the signage that we have. Someone, you know, painted that Duarte sign. Can we make that a little bit more? Can we use some of that funding to?
Are you talking about at the
Welcome to
Mountain?
Duarte? Yeah,
Yes.
Mountain. I mean,
Yes.
what Monrovia did with all those nice signage.
You know,
it's
that
amazing.
actually came up at our budget workshop and there was a discussion on it. So absolutely. I think part of that would be, we would need to come back with what the scope of it actually was. There was some suggestions of having students doing it. Then there was a discussion of the fact that it's special kind of paint in order to avoid and make it easier for cleanup at graffiti. So I think it would probably, I mean, as far as the budget, having some flexibility for something like that, I believe it does. I think it would be important to come back and have staff kind of propose what it would really take to do it, and kind of some ideas about what kind of professional might do something like that so that it would last for a while.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I know at the budget meeting, we talked about more of like repainting but can we just try and consider maybe a 3D type of deal, like when you're
Ooh,
coming off the
Trompe
freeway?
l'oeil kind of a,
Yeah,
Just,
something.
I mean, it's worth the discussion. Because you're coming off of the freeway and
Yes.
our neighbors have
Yeah,
have lights out,
they had the artwork in the landscape you're talking about.
and then you go down our
It
other
just looks
neighbors this way and
Great.
Yeah.
We want something.
We
good for our
definitely can
city,
bring
too.
something back to talk about that, because I do think it isn't something as simple as, just going in and putting on a new coat of paint. I think council's interested in, something new and maybe something different. So
Yeah,
we can bring an item back for that for sure.
sure.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else from my colleagues?
A 3D type of Duarte D right there would be nice.
Ooh,
Ooh.
there you go.
Mm.
But have you seen, I think they call them trompe l'oeil, right? Am I using the right word? Where it's like a 3D on the side of a building that almost makes it look like an extension of a building.
Shoshana's
artwork.
like, yes, you did use the right word. She's shaking her head. It's like, yeah.
Or a filter, yeah. It's also called a filter, yes.
Another kind of filter, yes. Okay, so I'm just curious. Are we going to talk about the town center with all the beautification part? Is that part of this?
Well, let me take the discussion that we did have there is that these assessment, the one assessment in particular that is on the southeast corner of Huntington Drive in Buena Vista,
Uh-huh,
that is town center.
sure.
And the idea that we need to assess and find out what revitalization plan we need to come up with for that corner. The discussion then went on to talk about the fact that we already do have some funding available for the northeast corner. There are some very serious discussions and negotiations going on right now with that corner. And so looking at what was going on there. My other understanding is that we currently have a consultant right now working on a median landscape plan for the town center area. And so that item will be coming back to the council, and understanding, I think, both of those corners in the context of town center median is, I think, going to be the bigger discussion. And the way I took away from all of that discussion is we have several pots of money at this point that can be placed in various areas. But until we really understand how they all work together, and also the coordination of that kind of construction being very massive, we have not allocated anything yet until we get those assessments. So the two assessments that are going on, one of them is more of, I would call it a negotiation, the assessment, and then the plans that are coming forward. I think all of that is about beautification of the town center area.
Great, thank you. I just want to let you guys know for the record, Councilwoman Schultz is the one, of course, I'm concurring with her that she's really pushing for the beautification part. So she's wrote to me. Anyways, that's great. I appreciate the report. Any other questions? You guys ready to make a motion?
Yeah, I motion to approve.
second.
Okay, very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're easy, aren't we? Oh, goodness. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to 9B, the adoptions of the resolutions number 22-18, declaring city-owned properties at 1303 and 1305 Huntington Drive as surplus land to comply with the Surplus Land Act. Craig.
Thank you. When a city desires to sell property, it must meet the requirements of the state's Surplus Land Act requirement. That's been around for quite a while, but back in 2018, the governor signed Assembly Bill 1486, and that amended the Surplus Land Act in many different ways. Specifically, it changed the definition of surplus land, and it also changed the process. So the city desires to sell the properties at 1303 and 1305 Huntington Drive. That's the former Spar Liquor. And for those that have been around a long time, the former Western Dental. The city bought the Spar Liquor about 4 or 5 years ago and bought Western Dental back in 2007, 2008. Over the past couple of years, we did have a deal with the developer to move forward on that. The surplus land that got signed in the middle of all that. And for a variety of different reasons, the deal with the developer, it was Arbor Capital Group. For those of you who were on the council at the time, might remember that. That lapsed. The biggest reason that lapsed is the former owner of the Rite Aid building and corporate Rite Aid would not cooperate with the corner developer and with the city on agreeing to change the CCNRs and the requirements of shared parking and shared access. Even with getting a free parking lot, they were unwilling to agree to that. So it made that corner piece really almost impossible to move forward on. I think that developer understands that and understands that we really need to go through a different process now. But there have been some changes in that shopping center that I think that are real positive. It kind of plays into this whole idea of why this surplus land, and this is the right time for that. First thing is we have a new owner of the Rite Aid building. We have a new owner desires to upgrade the building, which is good. Worked out a deal with Rite Aid to buy Rite Aid out. Rite Aid had a really long-term lease. It was a lease to be able to invest in this piece. The owner felt they needed to either extend them and upgrade that lease in a long term or buy them out, and they decided to buy them out. Rite Aid really didn't have a desire to stay at that location. There's also a new owner of the building, the pad building that's out there that is currently the Moda Mochi Donut shop.
Yeah.
That's a new owner there.
Yeah.
I just spoke with that owner the other day, and that's a positive thing too. Real interested in upgrades to the shopping center. We also had a recent meeting. I had a recent meeting with all of the property owners of that shopping center. There are 4 other property owners in addition to the city. All have a willingness to be involved in some type of major restoration to the shopping center. This includes parking lot, includes landscape, facade, the entire thing.
That's awesome.
That's something that I think is going to move forward. I think slowly, as we tried to earlier in your consent calendar, you approved an architect and engineer that we would hire to come up with some detailed plans for that. We have a concept plan now, but this would be detailed plan, measured drawings by the architect and drawings by the engineer that would address parking lot changes, accessibility and those types of issues. And those 2 things would allow us to develop a budget that we could have discussions with those property owners about, let them know what kind of costs might be involved in this.
Great, got a question really quick.
Yeah, sure.
Do you know what the new owner of the Rite Aid building, what they want to do potentially?
Their desire is to lease that, and they're working with a broker, and I've spoken with the broker many times, a very good broker. I think NAI Capital, he's a vice president with NAI Capital, understands the market pretty well. They're looking for 1, 2, or 3 tenants. They might need to subdivide that building. It depends what kind of tenants are interested, but they understand as part of that there will be some facade enhancement that would necessarily be required. Just to get a tenant in there, there would be some of that, and I think they understand that.
Yeah.
So here's what the process is for the Surplus Land Act. The city needs to send a written notice out. It's called a notice of availability. That's a part of the staff report. And that basically notes that the property is available for sale to public entities, housing groups that have written down in the HCD list, the Housing Community Development at the state level, that they are interested in these types of developments. So we make that determination. That notice is open for 60 days. From the time so it gets approved this evening, filed in the next few days, it'll be open for 60 days. And during that time period, it allows any possible affordable housing group to show interest in the property. We have to offer that piece for affordable housing. If there is interest within those 60 days, there's a 90-day period where the city would go through a negotiation process. The city is not required to take anything below the fair market value. The city is also not required to sell the property. If we decided not to sell the property for affordable housing, there would be some type of covenant that we need to go in the property that if in the future it were ever developed in a different way, it would need to be a portion affordable housing. But if there's no interest within that 60-day period, the city may go forward with marking that piece of property for sale in a different way. What will happen? I can't tell you exactly what will happen. I don't know, but here's what I do know. That property is greatly constrained. It's about, what's exactly 29,960 square feet. But within that area, it's constrained by parking and a driveway that is on the former Western Dental piece. Some of the parking that's out there is city-owned parking because it's part of Western Dental. It is also constrained by the specific plan, which requires a plaza of some size out on the corner. So basically with that, we're estimating that there's about 10,370 square feet of first floor land area that would be still available for some type of development. The specific plan requires that the first floor of that to be either commercial or office. So somebody wanting to use this for affordable housing would have anything above that first floor. And for 10,000 square feet, that's the size of 1.5 single family lots. The chance of that happening is very slim. So because of that, we think there probably will be very little interest. I do know in talking with our consultant, other cities that have done the same process with much larger pieces that have even more potential for affordable housing, there's been little interest. But it is a process that we need to go through. So with that, we're asking the council to adopt resolution number 2218, which will determine this piece of property, these two pieces of property together as surplus property, and we will go through that process. And hopefully with any luck, we'll be back in a few months. This is a very, to have a discussion about how we're going to dispose of this property, but I think this is a very important piece as part of the development of the entire center, the redevelopment of that entire center. This is a piece. There's other owners that have some interest in that center. And then at minimum, when we see that center upgraded, we're going to have a piece of property in that corner that has more value. So those two things together, I think this is a good thing for the city. It's just a process we need to go through.
Vin?
I just want to make it, it'd be pretty hard to have affordable housing on a corner of Buena Vista and Huntington. I just want to say by the Starbucks and a gas station and all the other supermarkets to have some housing there. That's pretty difficult. Not saying they can't do it, but I'm just, any developer, they really have to think really hard to want to do that there. But yeah, I'm ready to vote this if you guys are.
Caesar, want to say something?
I'm sorry.
Tony?
I just got a question for Craig. What's the feasibility of seriously putting a property there? I agree. I totally agree with my colleague Vin. I don't see it, but is there a feasibility of putting one there? Or not?
I don't think there is. And I would say that, like I said, at the end of the day, we're still not required to sell the property. I mean, there might be some requirements that would have to be placed on it. But here's what I say. If there is interest, I think we have many other locations in the city that would be more appropriate for a larger development, that there'd be a bigger advantage for a developer. So I doubt there will be any interest in this piece. And that's pretty much, like I said, that's pretty much what I've heard from the consultant in other cities they've worked with. That's pretty much been the response. I understand why the state did this, but even before this, there are hoops to jump through when a city sells property. But since 2019, it's just there are more hoops.
Yeah, that shopping center or the gosh, I want to say Pick and Save, but it's
Big Lots.
Big
It used to be
Lots.
Pick and Save.
I know. And the Rite Aid, the shopping center, it really needs a huge facelift, and it's so dark over there at night all the time. If we can have better lighting, I think it will be much safer for a lot of the shoppers, that would like to go and shop over there too. In addition to this, it is such an integral part. It's so important. It's critical for us to have that shopping center, especially that corner, to have a good shop. It really can make or break us, because that is the heart of our town center. If we have something that's going to be great, it's attractive, people would like to come on over. to patronize the place or to go ahead and eat over here. It would just draw so much attention if we have a nice corner piece. And eventually, hopefully that hotel on the other side is going to go ahead and spring up. That's what has a little bit more retail. It would just really transform our city to finally have a town center. And I really do appreciate you for working with all these different landowners and so on. And hopefully one day we can have a nice facade. And it's just like that Albertsons that, right on Huntington and Mountain, right on in the Monrovia side. That used to be so dilapidated for such a long time. And then they had a facelift. Then you have all these nice shops coming in. And that's the same thing I was telling, can I even say this, Johnson Yang back then, it's like, well, if you can go ahead and put a nice facelift, then better shops will come to your shopping center. I just hope that's going to happen for this critical piece of our city. And if we're able to go ahead and make this to be nice, you're going to see so many more people in Duarte and all around in the adjacent cities and so on. They will come on over and spend their money in our city. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to making sure that we'll be able to have a nice corner piece with some good retails that people can congregate and have a good time and be safe, right? That's what we're looking for. And eventually will be our town center. So
if I might just add one thing, I just a little bit more about the two new owners are they bought those properties for an investment. So I mean, they're definitely motivated. So the other two new owners left is the owner that owns the inline shops. We talked about in the past, Larry Smith. I think he's very influenced by the new owners. And then, several years ago, a variety of different things happened that from a corporate standpoint, I think kind of got Big Lots to just kind of, back in the days where we had redevelopment and there was a desire to kind of buy everything out and just redo everything. Big Lots kind of had, I think, a little red check mark by the city of Duarte. Hey, they want to kick us out. But the conversation with them was very good. I mean, they definitely they're willing to listen. They're new people that they have there. So there's real legs behind this right now. So what you're talking about, I think we're definitely going down that path.
Just curious. So what's going to happen to all the little retail shops that's adjacent towards the west of Big Lots? Are they going to have a facelift also?
Well, the plan would come back with a facelift for everything in the entire center, including the Mochi Donuts shop, which has not been included in the past.
Right.
But that owner has a real interest to be included. And while in theory, that piece is part of the CC&Rs, they've never paid into the CC&Rs because it's just been a separate ownership and it's been owned by multiple people. I mean, I think I've been here for a little over 13 years, and I think there's been 5 or 6 different owners in the time that I've been here.
Wow.
So that's always been an issue. But we have somebody now who's bought that for an investment, and it's a different kind of owner than we've seen in the past.
Okay, good. All right, colleagues.
I vote for this motion to go ahead and pass this.
I second.
Okay, very good. So all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and move on to 9C really quick. 9C is the resolutions of the City Council of confirming the existence of a local emergencies, right? And Dr. Jordan.
We, Councilmember Kang and Council, we discussed this quite extensively at the beginning of the meeting. I don't know if we want to go through that again, or if you understand it, I think we can just do a motion.
That we pretty much beat that to death. So I'll go ahead and motion it. In 1 second.
Second.
I'm sorry. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to 10 continuations of oral communications. I think Joanna G, you want to go ahead and say something really quick?
Oh, sure. I forgot to mention one thing in my announcements that we do have COVID kits available for the public. So if you know anybody that needs one, come down to the library and pick one up. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else wishing to speak on item number 10? District 9.
Leno Paros, Duarte. First up, I'd like to have a shout out to Victoria, who has been doing a fine job all around and so on. You know, if I can afford her, I'll hire her. I steal it from you guys. Okay. I've been doing and observing and tracking down the crime rate report monthly, and I have observed some sort of a trend. I'm not gonna discuss here anything that should not be discussed in public for tactical reason and strategic reason for public safety purposes. But many months ago, the budget of public safety is almost $3 million. Now it's almost $7 million. The population of the Duarte is probably has increased 1,000 or 2,000 over those years. I understand Mr. Lewis thing about inflation, I understand that, sir, okay? But my concern, basically, aside from the normal, what's that, catalytic converter, which is pandemic all over the place, is the crime rate against businesses. As a business owner myself, even though my business is not in Duarte, I share the pain of these business owners, especially small business owners. I have experience of public officers responding to my need, and I'm satisfied. Where I'm coming from is, and I have talked to Sergeant Fiddler a month or two ago regarding my observation, and to a certain extent to Brian Villalobos, who has enlightened me with a lot of some details that obviously that some of them are tactical, of which I will not mention anything here. And why am I saying this? Because I'm continuing my observation, business, and research on this one. So hopefully Brian can give a heads up to the city manager and that they can discuss some of the concern that I have mentioned, and we go from there. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak on item number 10? Seeing none, let's go ahead and move on to item 11, which is the items from the City Council, Housing Authority, and Financing Authority. I am going to start with Brian. Okay, Craig. Okay, Manuel. Kristen.
Just wanted to let you know that I will have printed out hard copies of that budget in the next couple of weeks. So,
Thank you very much, Dan.
Only I want to thank our department head staff this evening. I think you all received some really good information. Ms. Peterson with the budget, I think was a fantastic presentation. Mr. Enriquez moving forward on the Fish Canyon Trail project, which has been a long time priority with the council. Mr. Hensley, who has been working so hard in that town center area. I think you got a little taste of that this evening, and a lot was adopted and discussed tonight that I think you're going to look back on as just being a really important evening in the history of the city's town center area because you put a lot of things in motion. And finally, Mr. Villalobos, who did just a wonderful job this weekend, who in one moment was sweaty and dirty beyond belief in his front yard doing yard work, and the next moment was managing the response to a fire that on Sunday afternoon, we didn't know which way it was going. So it was scary for a little while there, and he did a fantastic job and ran the ship from our emergency operations center. So thank you to each of you for all your contributions, which were a part of this evening. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Storm? Very good. I'm just going to go ahead and go towards my right. Vin?
Thank you for staff for the reports, and Brian for exactly what Dr. Jordan said. I sent him an email and then I got response, and I'm sure it took him a lot to get and to take care of all that this past weekend. Well, thank you guys very much and have a good evening. Happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there for the Sunday.
Okay, Caesar?
Dr. Jordan beautifully said, so I'm not going to add my 2 cents. It was perfect as it was, but I also want to thank you for coming out on Saturday and planting some trees. I think that speaks volumes of how much you care for our city. So thank you. And thank you to all the city staff. I also recently received an email from Marilyn Mays. She said that with the Wild Styles and the fashion show, the teen center raised over $8,200. So that was a really good turnout. And I am so happy we were able to approve all the mayor's youth council today. I think I spoke a little bit about it at the last meeting. It's truly a great group of bright kids that want to give back. And I'm just proud and happy. That's it, folks.
Good.
And happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and move on to Tony. Mr. Lewis?
I would also like to thank the staff for the report. And I would like to thank the people our residents that showed up today. Thank you for your input. Thank you for caring about the city. Whether it's good or bad, it's input. And I like to thank I like to also wish every father out there and my colleagues happy Father's Day. And Caesar, soon to be father, I guess. You know, but I said,
who's your daddy?
So no, but that being said, like I said, and I like to thank for all the support and have a good night.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to echo the same thing with my colleagues and what Dr. Jordan had said. Brian, great job on the fish fire, I guess the other fish fire. Gosh, it happened pretty quick. And I'm just curious, same spot, what, 4 years ago, 2016, was it 2000? When I was the mayor the first time. So it's the same spot all the time, every time? Okay, I'm just curious, right? So can we perhaps look into placing a camera or something like that around around that area? Because I do recall that in 2016 there was a car that drove by very, very quickly, and then one of the constituents said that, hey, there's a fire, and then a fire just started spreading so quickly going up, and then of course there was a MVA or there's a TC, and that person unfortunately died on 39, and it just turned into a big gigantic fire.
I'll make a brief comment because I know this isn't agendized, but we're already taking steps to mitigate and investigate that fire as well as other fires that have started on Mount Olive in the city of Bradbury. So I'm not going to discuss the steps just because I don't want it out there in the public what we're doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just want to again appreciate the LA County Fire, LA County Sheriffs, US Forestry, and I think even LA City, helos, two of them were just suppressing the fire. I think there was like maybe 5 helicopters, 3 fixed wings. I mean, the whole world was there. And I appreciate such a swift and fast response that we're able to go ahead and suppress and stop that fire without getting out of control. I think we burned, the fire burned about what, 55 acres. Again, I mean, we don't wish to have any kind of fires, but again, we really do appreciate the help from the LA County Fire and US Forestries and everyone else for keeping us safe. So in addition, yeah, yes, sir.
Sorry, Sam, just to echo what I got a call on Sunday, probably maybe 30 minutes after the fire started, and it told me, Mr. Lewis, your city has a fire and it's 1 acre and running. And I told the fire person that I talked to that they should call, I want everybody come in, bring the army. And they did send out all the copters. They had to divert resources because resources went out to the San Bernardino fire. And so they had to turn them around and come back to take care of our city. And I just want to say, you know who you are. I can't out you, but thank you for calling me, and thank you for taking care of our city.
Brian, got a question really quick. Did that thermal camera ever picked up anything, or was it too inside of Foothill?
It wasn't within the scope of the camera. So.
Darn it. Okay, it would have been great if that camera would have picked it up.
Thank you, Brian, too.
Yeah. And the second thing I want to go ahead and echo is, Craig, thank you so much for doing such a great job in regards to the beautification on the town center side. And then staff, and especially Kristen Peterson, thank you so much for making this budget happen, and looking forward to having another, great year for us. Yeah, it's going to be great. Lastly, I just want to say, I think this was pretty fast. It's 9:40 right now. Anyways, I'm just going to go ahead and do the adjournment now. I do believe there's a public person that wants to go ahead and speak. We're going to adjourn in the memory of Patricia Wolf. Mr. Hernandez, you want to go ahead and speak a little bit about this person? And then the other person we want to adjourn with is actually Francisco Rena. Yes, sir.
I got volunteered by Peggy to work at the senior center one year because I went with a friend whose wife made a comment, and we took it to her, and she says, "When can you start?" But one of the first people I met there after that happened was Pat Wolf. And Pat, she was pretty old then, but she was very spry. And she really made things come to life. I mean, she was just such a positive person, such a pleasant person. And I got to work with both her daughter and her granddaughter as well. So, I mean, it's always a moment, but I was sad to hear of her passing, but at the same time, she's in her 90s and she lived a very, very full life. And I just thought that, to me anyway, she's just an incredible human being. And I'm just very appreciative that I got to meet her. I got to know her. And I can't tell you just how much I love that woman. She was just great. She was really, to me, just one of those people that you never forget. So, like Brian.
Yes, sir. Okay, anyone else would like to speak? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.